Hey, Shalom. I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. I want to give double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, where I learned this truth from. I want to say peace, mercy, and blessings to all the hopeful elect. The true name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh, which means He exists or He is to be. The true name of the Son is Yahushai, which means He is the deliverer. We are the Hebrew Israelites, all right, and there's 12 tribes. The so-called blacks, African Americans, Negroes, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, Latins, Hispanics, Jamaicans, Haitians, Cubans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, etc. Right, we make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel. The self-proclaimed white man, right, so-called Caucasian European, right there, Esau, Edom, Idumea, Mount Seir. According to Bible prophecy, Esau is the end of the world and the only nation that's not going to receive any mercy from Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And Jacob, which Jacob's name was changed to Israel, is the beginning of it that that followed. All right, and this is a video from Southern Prepper 1. As you can see, it says April 15th, boots on the ground. Trade wars can lead to real wars, and this is fair use. I'm not using this for any sort of monetary gain, strictly for educational critique. So I'm going to play a little of this video and there's some precepts.
A huge disadvantage for U.S. companies. A billionaire hedge fund warned on an interview on Sunday that he is looking at things worse than a recession. If the trade war continues, it could have a huge breakdown of broader financial systems. So another warning from someone that is in the know.
And those people in the know, they're the keepers of the house. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." So that's when a lot of people just think all you have to do is just say a quick prayer, speaking of the world, from the world face value, that I accept Jesus in my heart as my Lord and Savior, and you're saved. And they wait until they get old to do it, until they live a life of, complete wickedness. The Most High requires you to seek Him early, all right, in the days of your youth. If you look at it, Jeremiah was a young man. Yahushai, and when he was 12, he wandered off from his parents, and they found him. He said, I must be about my father's business. Verse 2, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. Right, and going back to 1, during the time of Jacob's trouble, the dystopian societal breakdown, there's not going to be any pleasure in those days. And that's what's coming in a time to where, there's famine and people get extremely desperate to the point to where they form groups, okay, and they resort to cannibalism, or there's not even water, or there's war all around you, sedition among men, evil times. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. That's the Janet Yellen's, the financial advisors, people of Wall Street, study economic trends, things of that nature, And the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. Many Americans are not seeing a future. They're seeing that they're paycheck to paycheck, and you're either rich or you're poor, and they can't afford anything. They can't afford rent. They can't afford groceries. You're just making enough just to make it to working back, and the little money you're getting, you're not gonna have anything left over after you pay your bills, if you can pay all of your bills. And the doors shall be shut in the streets. There's gonna be banks are gonna be closing down. It's gonna be run on banks. We're gonna try to hit ATMs, and they ain't gonna be able to get their cash. Different stores. There's all sorts of things shutting down. This is just a quick Google search. It says in 2025, retail store closures are expected to be significant. with analysts predicting anywhere from 15,000 to 100,000 stores closing across the U.S. This trend, driven by increased e-commerce, competition from big box retailers, and economic factors. And you know those Trump's tariffs are a big part of those economic factors, right? This is Isaiah 19 and verse 14. The Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai had mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. And that's a very wicked, evil spirit, all right, that's on America. You know, spirit of confusion, Sodom and Gomorrah spirit, you know, lesbianism, bestiality, you know, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggered in his vomit. That's how Trump is looking right now. We see that he made an error, you know. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt which the head, tail, branch, or rush may do, meaning anyone. Right? 16, in that day, shall Egypt be like unto woman, and it shall be afraid and fear, because of the shaking of the hand of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua host, the Lord of armies, which he shaken over. And going back to the title of this video from Southern Prepper, boots on the ground, trade wars can lead to real wars. So it's can lead to the real thing, you know. Back to this video.
The Chinese government has ordered restrictions on 6 of the heavy rare earth minerals and metals, and they are probably the biggest controller of rare earth metals. 90% of all of them are produced in China. And these metals are very important in all industries, and especially in the military industrial complex.
Follow the leader may soon become follow the lawmaker when it comes to playing the stock market. Tonight,
a few days ago, F-16 was shot down in Ukraine. This is one of the ones that we supplied Ukraine, or one of the European countries supplied Ukraine with, that was supposed to be a game changer. It was going to turn the war. So far, I've seen no impact with these F-16s. This is from someone in California. He says eggs are down to about $10 a dozen. Gas is about the same for a long time. Butter and milk are holding steady. Overall, I see a lot of tags on the shelf at the store say new lower prices. So this trend seems to be moving in our favor. Probably these new lower prices are because people...
It's not going to move in the favor, you know, because it's going to come to a point to where you experience something called hyperinflation. Right now, people are experiencing stagflation, you know. It says, persistent high inflation combined with high unemployment and stagnant demands in the country's economy. So with all these store closures, that's people on unemployment. You know, that's people out of work, you know.
People are broke, so if it's not a necessity, people are looking for cheaper options. The chief economics man at Moody's said that the U.S. will face a recession in weeks if the President Donald Trump trade war continues. So another expert saying we could be in potential trouble. Now Donald Trump said that he could give temporary exemptions for 25% tariffs on auto industry. This would give car companies time to transition to manufacturing in the U.S. To manufacture in the U.S. is going to take a lot of time to get factories built. So
Exactly, that's going to take a lot of time and money. And on top of that, you have to find workers, you know, people that are actually going to do the job. Now, America is filled with obese, lazy drug addicts, which is why China put out an AI video showing you fat, obese workers in manufacturing. You know, nobody wants to do no goddamn manufacturing job, you know.
Boys in the auto industries complain, and I think they only had a 25% tariff on them, and looks like they're going to get something done in their favor. China has told their airlines to stop taking deliveries of jets from the American giant Boeing.
Right, and I want to touch on that. This is from Reuters.com. China orders airlines to suspend Boeing jet deliveries amid trade war, Bloomberg News reports. Right? April 15, Reuters, China has ordered its airlines not to take further deliveries from Boeing just in response to the U.S. decision to impose 145% tariffs on Chinese goods. So that's like overkill, you know. Bloomberg News reported on Tuesday, citing familiar people with the matter. Shares of Boeing, which considers China one of its biggest growth markets and where rival Airbus holds a dominant position, were down 0.5% in midday trading. The global aerospace industry is being dragged into a U.S.-led trade war, with plane makers, airlines, and suppliers reviewing contracts worth billions of dollars, and the U.S. supplier Howmet Aerospace ignited debate over who should bear the cost of the tariffs. Confusion over change of tariffs could leave aircraft deliveries in limbo, with some airline CEOs saying they would defer delivery of planes rather than pay duties. China's top three airlines, Air China, China Eastern Airlines, and China Southern Airlines, had planned to take delivery of 45, 53, and 81 Boeing planes, respectively, between 2025 and 2027. Beijing has also asked that Chinese carriers halt purchases of aircraft-related equipment and parts from U.S. companies, the Bloomberg report said. Reuters has not been able to independently confirm the report. Two aerospace industry sources told Reuters they have not been alerted independently into a blanket ban on China on U.S. aircraft parts. Analysts said a short-term halt in deliveries to China would not have a major impact on Boeing, since the plane maker could redirect those jets to other airlines, and because Airbus does not have capacity to supply the country alone, China will have more difficulty banning imports of new U.S. parts to support its existing fleet of aircraft, including China C919. If China stops buying aircraft components from the U.S., the C919 program is halted or dead, wrote Bank of America and analyst Ron Epstein in a note to clients. The Chinese government is considering ways to provide assistance to airlines that lease Boeing jets and are facing higher costs. Bloomberg News reported it was China that first grounded Boeing 737 MAX jets after two fatal crashes of 2018 and 2019 cleared nearly 350 people. China also suspended most orders and deliveries of the jet in 2019. It says Boeing declined to comment. The halt in deliveries to China marks yet another setback for the plane maker, which is navigating a slow recovery following a challenging year marked by a labor strike, enhanced regulatory scrutiny, and persistent supply chain disruptions. Beijing's actions follow its decisions last week to hike levies on U.S. imports to 125% in retaliation to U.S. tariffs, which would significantly raise the cost of Boeing jets for Chinese carriers and potentially lead airliners to consider alternatives such as Airbus and domestic player Comex. So you got to think how this is affecting all aspects of life, different industries. People are losing their jobs. People are becoming angry, and honestly, it's going to affect Americans more than the Chinese,
It would not surprise me. You've seen every time they get something, they tear it down, re-engineer it in a way, and just copy us. So is this because of the trade war, or is this because of, hey, they got enough information now and they're going to start manufacturing and stealing our technology? This is from Britain, and this is about their justice system, which is a total mess. This used his medication that is given to him in Pakistan because a British judge ruled that he would face inhumane or degrading treatment. And this is also because he's an alcoholic. So we have a lot of bad news in the world today. Just keep prepping, keep preparing. One good thing is we still have
The only way to prep is spiritually. You can have all the guns, ammo, food, safe houses. You need divine protection from Yahweh Shem Yahushai. When Edris, the prophet Edris, the Most High showed him the vision of how bad it's going to get, let me see. This is 2nd Edges 16, and jump down to verse 17. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? So, because Edges actually said that because he saw how bad it's going to get, extremely bad, you know.
A lot of emergency water straws. So get them while you can, because I don't know what tariffs are going to do to us as a small business.
But those things are, it's good to have certain things, but you got to understand that, the most important thing is to have knowledge, wisdom, to know the correct name, and have faith in Yahweh Bashem Shai and pray that you're of the elect, This is Proverbs 22 and verse 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. Right? A prudent man will foresee that the hour of temptation is upon us. You see how everything is going digital, passports, driver's license, things of that nature. Everything's going digital. You see how the dollar's collapsing. The price of gold is keeps skyrocketing. So if you look at the prices of gold, it's over $3,300. And when you see the price of gold going up, that's people losing trust in the dollar, and they're moving to actual real money, right? Tangible assets such as gold and silver. So that's not a good sign for the dollar. Proverbs 22 and 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, right? You have to hide yourself in Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, the strong tower. But the simple pass on and are punished. And the simple are the ones that believe that nothing is going to happen, or, they don't have any faith, or they look back. Those are the simple that's going to pass on and be punished,
But I will tell you that they're going to affect us, small businesses, in extreme, because we don't have the capital to just say, hey, we're going to start a manufacturing plant inside the United States. We as a small business can't do it. And first, the amount of capital that would take, then having skilled workers to work it. The American people have really voted not to go back to manufacturing plants.
Exactly. This Babylon has fallen. That's all I'm going to play, because I don't want to risk a copyright or nothing. But this place is over. This is from InfoWars, Economy Alert, financial expert Peter Schiff, another one of those keepers of the house, warns dollar bubble just burst. This is the collapse I warned about for years. In recent Kitco News interview with Jeremy Saffron, financial commentator and radio host Peter Schiff claimed the U.S. economy collapse he's been warned about for years is finally here. The message comes as InfoWars and others have predicted the globalist-led deep state will do everything possible to crash the economy in order to place the blame on Mr. Trump amid his fight to revitalize the U.S. financial system. So what people are coming to realize is that they're all on the same team. You're really just picking the lesser of two evils. But whoever they put in office is to forward the agenda of the N to the W to the O, right? Which is to bring about a new system of buying and selling, This is Zephaniah 1 and verse 10. And shall come to pass in that day, said Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that there shall be a noise from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hill, right? Because you see the stock market crashes. That's signs of an economic collapse. That's signs of the dollar collapse. We're also witnessing de-dollarization on a global scale. And the USD, that's the international reserve currency, but now nations are they're backing away from the dollar. How you inhabitants of Mektesh, for all the merchant people are cut down, all that bear silver cut off, you know. Schiff said the U.S. pricked its own bubble, alluding to the incoming economic fall being an inside job. Right, it's a self-inflicted wound, you know. He also criticized the private Federal Reserve for refusing to acknowledge rising inflation, saying, yeah, well, the year ahead inflation expectations are now 6.7%. I mean, the Fed keeps saying that long-term expectations remain anchored at 2%. What are they talking about? Nothing is anchored at 2%. We've been adrift for a long time, and now we're at 6.7%. And you know what? It's going to be a lot higher than that. The Fed is completely wrong. The fact that gold is hitting new highs every day is another indicator that the crash is accelerating. Exactly, right? With Schiff explaining gold's up over $250 in the last 3 days, so we're accelerating. 2 days, the last couple of days, we were $100 a day, and maybe we'll be up again. Maybe we'll be up another 100 by the time they close today's trading. But what's happening, and what I've been telling people was happening all last year, as the price of gold went from 2,000 to 3,000, nobody cared, and nobody was buying it because everybody was sidetracked by Bitcoin and all the talk of digital gold. The economic expert continued, well, I think that there's going to be a massive loss of confidence because it's been a confidence game the entire time. But look, this going to be a financial crisis much worse than 2008. But it's not going to be global. It's a U.S. crisis. It's not a global crisis. It's actually liberation for the rest of the world because they're going to be liberated from the burden of supporting the U.S. economy. That means more for them. So China don't need the U.S. The U.S. needs China. Okay? And this is going to lead to uproars of the people, which there are already people protesting the Trump administration. You know, this is 2 Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and to them that dwell in, that's destruction. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and force and swords in their hands, Egyptian against Egyptian. You know, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So there's going to be great sedition. People are going to be in that January 6th spirit. You know, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. Travel is going to be restricted. You know, 18, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and the men shall be afraid. And also with that, I'm going to end it. You know, pray this has been edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh Shem El Shai. I want to say shalom to the hopeful elect.